What up, my fellow Knicks fans? This is your guy Marcellus Ease, and don't panic quite yet. Now, as more time goes along after this David Fizdale firing, things will start to unveil itself, as we'll see that this team will probably most likely continue to lose more and more games, and that there's a lot of holes in this roster, and that this interim head coach is just a temporary fix into a problem that's way deeper than what it is. And Steve Mills will be more and more put on the spotlight for the ills of this team. Now, the guys right here are going to cover what's going on with the team and what are the options going forward. You guys check it out, and I'll check in once in a while.
Because if you were following Adrian Wojnarowski, he broke news for ESPN that officially the Knicks have fired their head coach, David Fizdale.
Shocking.
Yes, it's not really a shocker. Shocking. Maybe the timing is, but assistant coach Keith Smart was also dismissed by the team. Fizdale went 21-83 during his time with the team, finishing with the worst win percentage in franchise history by a head coach. And remember, the move is coming off the heels of an 8-game losing streak, back-to-back 35-point losses to the Bucks and Nuggets. And that was the first time that that's happened in franchise history. So take a look at what the future could potentially hold for the Knicks. They do own some future first-round picks and own the 2021 unprotected first-round pick and top 10 protected 2023 first-round pick from the Mavericks in that Porzingis trade, and up to $60 million in salary cap space next summer. So there are some moves that could be made.
Now, this still pretty much, when you look at the financials and just the assets that we have, they're not in a bad position. But one key thing is going to start ringing is that the Knicks are going to have to make a change in the upper management. They're definitely going to have to make a change. And then certain players are going to have to, we're going to have to move off of them. And it's probably most likely going to start off with Dennis Smith Jr. Right now, him at the point guard position, he's just too erratic. It's just not looking like it's going to work out. He's kind of one of those guys in college that kind of have NBA athleticism, and everyone thought, they should be an NBA player. And then once he gets into the NBA, everyone has the same athleticism. And so your fundamentals have to start showing, and he's kind of lacking those things at the NBA level. So we'll see what happens there.
But obviously changes are happening, and we've seen this happen multiple times. I mean, 13 different head coaches over the last 20 years. So this is nothing new. But the question is, where do they go from here, Woj?
Well, Jim Dolan has to decide what kind of organization he wants to have here. And he has had the ability in the past to go out and recruit and offer that president GM title to the very best, the elite executives in the league. He has not done that.
And that's correct. He has not done that. Now, if you remember the time that the Knicks hired Phil Jackson, they were going to have a major kind of strike or / picketing event in front of Madison Square Garden. A lot of fans were going to come out protesting Dolan, and he went out and he got Phil Jackson. Now, Phil Jackson at the time was not the best man for the job, but on a PR level, it was a good move because the fan base already liked Phil Jackson, and he has championship pedigree. But the optics were not really good because Phil Jackson did not have experience, and he was stubborn in that triangle offense. And the NBA around that time was transitioning to becoming the three-point league that it is now, and just the triangle becoming kind of like a dinosaur. The triangle offense could still be used today, but it has to be more modernized.
This job, despite all the controversy that comes with Dolan, besides all the dysfunction, this is a job that still appeals to the elite in the league. And it's going to have to start with Steve Mills moving aside for the Knicks. He has been here in 2 different stints.
Notice how he says Steve Mills moving aside. Now, I'm pretty sure Woj already knows that Steve Mills is kind of like a right-hand man of Dolan, especially when it comes to those financials. Now, Steve Mills, basketball operations, as far as running MSG, making sure the money's coming in good, he's very good at that. This guy has an MBA from Harvard, but when it comes to running that basketball team, he is not good. So don't be surprised if he is not fired, is that he's just removed from the position that he's at, but he still works for the Knicks organization.
13 years, you've seen a historic run of losing, but the Knicks still appeal to, I think, the very, very best in this league. But Dolan has to find a way now to get the messaging out that he is willing to allow the changes that need to take place within that organization to open the door for whether it's a Masai Ujiri, a Bob Myers, those kind of executives who you would like to go pursue in New York.
So what I'm hearing from you is it's not even a coach's problem. I mean, sitting at 4-18 and firing the coach, that's one thing, but you're going even higher than that. I mean, who is even to blame here? And you're laughing right now, Jay Will, so I'll go to you first.
The Knicks hater right here. This guy hates on the Knicks like crazy. Jay Will.
Appeal to any, elite front office for because they have a hell of a checkbook. Like how is this
AKA, he wants to be part of that checkbook, low key.
not laughable? This is laughable. You have the most famous arena on the planet. You have the #1 franchise in NBA. They have unlimited spending power, and they keep messing up. They keep messing up. This is incompetence up top. Like, that's what it comes down to. And, I'll ask you this question, Drake. Who's the best coach in the game right now? Maybe Greg Popovich? Correct. They have 4 more wins than the Knicks.
Now, one thing I have to say, when they hired David Fizdale, it's funny because the Bucks coach right now, I believe his name is Bullholzer, the Knicks had the opportunity to hire him, and, they kind of passed on him.
So realistically, what better of a job
What did we
could
expect?
Fizdale's help
What did
done?
we expect him to do with the roster that was in place?
Based on what Jay just said,
What did we expect?
Come on, man.
the New York Knicks are the Dallas Cowboys of the NBA.
No, they're not. Not even close. The Dallas Cowboys every year, they're like, you should see these media outlets in their rankings. They rank the Dallas Cowboys at least like a top 10 team in the NFL, and usually they don't even finish at that.
When you look at the Forbes list, they're #1. They're worth $4 billion. They got 4 wins currently.
Yeah.
Just think about that math. They've had the same owner in James Dolan, just like the Cowboys with Jerry Jones, and every time we talk about their squad, we talk about their owner, and that's the thing that Woj is alluding to. If you're going to get somebody elite, you got to give them the autonomy to do their job.
Exactly. That might be an issue right there because from what Steve Mills is saying, it seems like maybe he felt the pressure to tell James Dolan to keep the team competitive, that, that they're going to be a much better product than they were last year. But at the same time, they were trying to develop players that they had. They have very young players. And maybe James Dolan just doesn't have the patience for that, or maybe he's feeling the pressure of Brooklyn showing up with Kyrie and KD now. I don't know. There's a lot of different things that's in play right now, but the Knicks right now, we're supposed to be in development mode. That's what Scott Perry and Steve Mills had said going into last summer. And this season, it seems like, especially with Marcus Morris, making him play all those minutes, I believe that's a call from upstairs, because there's no way in hell you're trying to develop Kevin Knox, RJ Barrett, while you have this guy, Marcus Morris, taking up all the shots, thinking that he's Allen Iverson in crunch time all the time, chucking up shots, and you have Julius Randle that you paid a lot of money for, and he's not taking the last shot. Things don't make sense.
And that seems like something they have not done. However, I want to congratulate Fizz. They did him a favor. This was a Christmas gift. They did, because they bought out Larry Brown for almost $30 million. Okay, they brought Phil Jackson out for $20 million, brought Derek Fisher out for $10
I want the job.
Yeah.
I'll take it.
Well,
Give it to me.
How about that?
Now, look at that. David Fizdale, Larry Brown, Derek Fisher. That's all under Steve Mills. No, actually not Larry Brown. Sorry about that. Not Larry Brown. But David Fizdale, Derek Fisher. That falls under Steve Mills. That's the issue right there.
Taking a look at the win percentages here, but go ahead, Paul, because you haven't even got to mention the roster he was set with.
Yeah, what do you do with this roster? When you haven't had a true superstar in over 20 years, you've had Carmelo Anthony, who you tried to build around, but they have no transcending players now. It doesn't matter what you do with the GM. It doesn't matter what you do as a coach. You got to get the players at the end of the day, because the players create the culture. They create the environment.
And once again, for most of Carmelo's reign, Steve Mills was president. So there's always a consistent variable.
That sets the tone for winning.
And they need to build an infrastructure. Cap space doesn't matter in New York if you don't run a competent organization. They saw that this summer.
Damn, Julius Randle's handles are ugly. Sometimes you're watching him bring the ball up and just dribble the ball. You're just like, yo, please, just pass it.
With Kyrie Irving, with Kevin Durant. They didn't just choose Brooklyn. They decided they didn't want that environment. They didn't believe in the structure that was in place with the Knicks. Listen, agents know, players know, coaches, executives. If you can win in New York, there's no better place to do it. And all the resources are there, but they don't have an infrastructure in place, and they don't.
And the culture is created by the players, regardless. You got to have the players. I mean, you could say, yeah, we're gonna have this coach fire him next year, but if you get Kyrie and Durant, they got a long-term coach there. Period. End of the day, it's about the players.
Now that end up may not getting Kyrie and KD might actually end up working out, because those two guys, man, I don't know if their personalities even fit, on the same team, especially in this market of New York City. Those guys seem to have a riff with the media. It's just all the time. But, everyone's hyped up that Brooklyn got them, but that doesn't mean that equals up to success. We still have to see how that plays out. Because right now, of course, this season is going to be a wash for them. But next season, KD off of that off that Achilles tear, the pressure, the expectation, I'm not sure if those two guys together is going to be a winning formula. Those two guys might be two guys that should just be good friends, but doesn't necessarily mean they should be roommates. We'll see how that plays out.
So, but they didn't get those guys, and they didn't get it because of the culture that was in place, right?
What do they expect then?
But it's hard to create a culture of players, Paul, when I'm watching Charles Oakley getting thrown physically out of the building.
By the owner. What does that say? If we're going to start at the top, let's go to the very top then.
The last executive that the Knicks hired with any real track record of success was Donnie Walsh, and you saw him.
Yep, Donnie Walsh, old man Walsh. And guess who got rid of him? Steve Mills. Steve Mills, man, he cleaned house. Got rid of Donnie Walsh. He got rid of all the coaching staff for Mike Woodson. I've never seen nothing like that. A team that won 54 games a year before and went to the second round of the playoffs. The best that the franchise had done in years. This guy comes in and cleans house. Everybody out.
Clean up. They drafted well. Then the Carmelo Anthony trade happened when Jim Dolan came in, pushed him aside, and that started the spiral. They gave up way more in that deal to who? Masai Ujiri, who was then the president in Denver. So
it's funny. Masai Ujiri always brags about how he keeps finessing the Knicks. Not only he finessed the Knicks in that Carmelo trade, he finessed them again when Steve Mills took over in 2013 when they did that Andre Bargnani trade. Yo, that was a complete win by Masai Ujiri, getting rid of Bargnani. I believe he got a pick, and he got a couple young Knicks players out of that deal. He brags. He was bragging around that time of how he just keeps ripping the Knicks off. I'm not sure if Steve Mills could be around when if this guy ever gets hired by the Knicks. It's not going to mesh.
Let me ask you then, what would the blueprint be for the Knicks? How do you move forward? What is the best case scenario for them? Are you going after a Masai Ujiri? Are you going after a Bob Myers? Are you going and you're going to give the autonomy to somebody who has some of the answers that they need?
Yeah, I go after the best in the game. If I have an unlimited pocketbook and I'm saying, hey, I'm going after the best in the game, I'm going to keep going and try to get the best in the game to manage. But it also starts with saying, go manage. Go manage. Go ahead. I have to stay out of it.
Money's not going to be enough to get those guys make $8, $9, $10 million a year. Yeah. Those executives have turned down jobs for more money.
I believe Dolan has stayed out of it, is that Steve Mills comes across as a yes man. We don't know how he acts in front of James Dolan. Steve Mills is probably one of those guys that just wants to please his boss. And he's willing to do whatever, even if that's throwing guys underneath him under the bus. Steve Mills comes across as one of those people.
What they need is the ability to come into Madison Square Garden and from top to bottom make decisions about who is there, who is gone. There is
that's never going to happen.
There is James Dolan.
Never going to happen with James Dolan. Never.
There is such.
That can happen with James Dolan. He wants to give that level of responsibility to someone so he could just stop taking that media blame. But Steve Mills is his money guy. He's probably not competent to run basketball operations, but he can run everything behind the basketball scene, like, the financials of Madison Square Garden, the marketing, etc. But I'm not sure if he can run the actual building of a team.
A culture of institutional survival, people who've been in that building for more than a decade, who've been part of all this, that if they're not cleared out of there, you're not getting that caliber. Those guys can make money anywhere. They want to win and have success. They're not just about money. That's why they're.
Yeah, that's a major issue at Madison Square Garden. There's a lot of people that have a lot of tenure, and they're doing everything they can to make sure that they stay in that building. And Steve Mills is part of that. Is part of that regime. Part of that issue.
At the top of their profession. And listen, there's a number of executives in this league who could come to New York and
But then again, you can make the argument that, all those people that are trying to keep their jobs behind the scenes, something is being done right over there because their financials keep getting higher every year. That, like I said, that team is worth $4 billion now. And if they're consistently keeping the same people behind the scenes, that means they got to be doing something right.
build something that can get this organization back on track.
Yeah, well, Mike Miller is the interim head coach. And remember, Dolan did give that autonomy to Phil Jackson. It didn't work out, and the right decisions.
No, he really didn't. He had Steve Mills in Phil Jackson's corner. Steve Mills is right behind Phil Jackson, following him everywhere. Still kind of looking over his shoulders.
Weren't made, obviously.
That's because he still had Steve Mills in place, even though Phil Jackson didn't
Phil
do it.
Jackson
Phil got his $70 million now. Go ahead, Faye.
Hey, right there. Jalen Rose already knows. But we'll see what happens. A lot of things have to change internally. Just as far as basketball operations, I think Steve Mills has to go. He could get downgraded back into the financial side of the Knicks. But I don't think Dolan's going to get rid of him completely out of the organization. But there is something definitely rotten in Denmark within the Knicks, something that we're not being told. But I do believe Steve Mills has been kind of like a yes man to James Dolan, and James Dolan not understanding basketball. I believe Steve Mills have kind of told a little white lies here and there about how good this team really is, because everyone they selected is on them. David Fizdale did not select all these players. Dennis Smith Jr. is not working out. He's just an athletic guy. Alfred Payton, that's a Scott Perry player. He's not working out right now due to hamstring issues. It's just that point guard position with the Knicks. Once again, it's a black hole, and it's sucking the juice, it's sucking the life out of everything else in that Knicks organization right now. But you guys let me know what you think, and you guys stay safe. Peace.